So, table leg for tonight is the chimp paradox. So, who'd heard of it? Gemma, is that it? Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So the basis of the chimp paradox is based on a book called The Chimp Paradox, which was written by a guy called Professor Stephen Peters. And Steve Peters was a sports psychologist, started working with elite athletes, did a lot with British cycling, England football team, and then he kind of realised that the principles of it that are really relevant to elite athletes, but actually apply to everyone in life, especially people who've been through trauma. So we're going to kind of look at the model that Steve Peters put together, slightly different slant on it. So it's not kind of word for word with the book. If you're interested in it, the book is the Chimp Paradox. There's also a children's version called My Hidden Chimp, which has just got lots of pictures and really simple, so I actually prefer that version. But it's a simple read and you can sort of go into a bit more depth and find out a bit more about it. So before we go into like what Steve Peters said, I'm just going to tell you another story. So I want to tell you about Georgia. So Georgia came on a programme a few years ago. She'd been involved in the Manchester Arena bombing, and she came on a programme in the Peak District. And the first night in the Peak District, we go and do something similar to what we did on Monday night, and we'll go down a cave. And when we got to the cave entrance, someone from another group had left their rucksack outside the cave entrance because they didn't want to carry it down with them. And Georgia panicked because last time she'd seen an unattended bag, a bomb had gone off. So she was crying, she was having a panic attack, she was trying to run away. Now, I'll tell you what we told Georgia on that night in a moment. But first of all, I'll tell you a bit about Steve Peters and how he sees the idea of the chimp paradox working. So Steve Peters' theory is that the brain in its simplest form is broken down into three parts. Your chimp, nice drawing, chimp, your human, and your computer. So your chimp is the oldest part of the brain. So it goes back to when we were chimpanzees in the jungle, and it is all about survival. The role of the chimp when we were chimpanzees in the jungle was to keep us safe and to keep us alive. So any threat, he's going to react. And as the brain's evolved, that's still the role of the chimp part of your brain, to keep you safe and to keep you alive. Now, as a result of that, your chimp is constantly looking for danger. And when he's constantly looking for danger, I call him a he. It's a him, it's a her, it's an it, it's a what, it's whatever you want it to be. But for tonight, we'll call him a he. Because he's constantly looking for danger, he can become paranoid. He can jump to conclusions. He can become irrational. He can become emotional. And that's when sometimes he doesn't always help you. So, who has got into an argument and said stuff that once you calm down, you wonder why you said it?
Me. Probably what I was talking about.
Yep. Who has gone to have one biscuit and ended up having, I was going to say half a packet, the whole packet? Oh, there's more hands going up on that than the argument. Who has got really wound up and anxious if you're doing like a presentation or you've got to stand up and say something in front of people? Done that? That's all chimp behaviour. That's your chimp hijacking things because he sees there's a perceived threat. So the presentation, especially in modern day society, a big threat is a threat to your ego or your status. You know, a lot of you have talked about the what ifs, that the what ifs stop you from doing something. So in that presentation scenario, your chimp is going, what if you get it wrong? What if you make a fool of yourself? Don't do it, don't do it, don't put yourself in that situation. Because he's trying to protect you, because he's worried that you might make a fool of yourself. You might have a threat to your status or your ego. But actually that's not helpful. It's holding you back. In the argument, we go back to chimpanzees fighting for being king of the jungle kind of thing. You want to win the argument, because otherwise it's a threat to potentially your status in the herd. So that's why your chimp hijacks things, flashes in and reacts, but sometimes that reaction is emotional and it's irrational. And that's why we say things that we don't always mean when we get into arguments. Biscuit might be the last meal you'll ever have. Eat the whole packet, otherwise you might starve. But, we know that's not true, but that's kind of where their behaviour starts from. It's particularly relevant for people with PTSD and when you've been through something traumatic, because your chimp is there to keep you safe. And you've had something happen to you that has put you in danger. So he becomes even more paranoid. He almost becomes, his behaviour becomes heightened because there's been that danger in the past. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But I was told this once, and I think it's a really good way of thinking of your chimp. Think of your chimp being like a smoke alarm in your house. Your smoke alarm in your house is there to keep you safe and keep you alive, yeah? To let you know if there's a fire that could be a threat to you. But the smoke alarm also goes off when you burn the toast. That's what your chimp does. He's there to keep you safe, he's there to keep you alive, but sometimes it can be a false alarm. But when you burn the toast, you don't take the smoke alarm out, do you? You manage it. So you take away the trigger, the burnt toast, or you go and flap a towel by it. You manage the situation. And that's exactly what you've got to do with your chimp. You've got to learn to work with your chimp because he's there to keep you alive. People often say your chimp is who you are when you're behaving in a way that you don't want to behave. I disagree with that. I think your chimp is just doing his job. Your chimp is trying to keep you safe. But in trying to keep you safe, he becomes paranoid, emotional, irrational, jumps to conclusions, and that can sometimes be a right royal pain in the backside. Make sense? Okay. Human part of the brain is your logical, rational thinking. So the way the human part of the brain works, it assesses the evidence and then makes a logical, rational decision. So it's who you are when you're calm and unstressed. The problem with that is it takes time to assess the evidence and make a rational decision. So in certain situations, in the time that your human brain is assessing the evidence and trying to make a decision, your chimps hijack things. Because your chimp is 5 times stronger and faster than the human part of your brain. He's got to be, because your chimp is there to keep you alive. So if you're walking across a road and a bus is coming and suddenly you've got to get out the way quick, you need your chimp to be quick, fast and strong to get you out of danger. He can't afford to go, that bus is travelling at 36 miles an hour at an average speed of 7 metres every second. I have precisely 6.2 seconds to get out of the way. There isn't time to assess the evidence. He's just got to react, move now. So because of that, that's great when it comes to keeping you alive. The downside of it is he can hijack situations. The computer is where you store all your learnt behaviours and past experiences. So just like a computer, when you buy it, the hard drive is empty, it's got nothing on it. And then every experience you have gets stored in files and folders in that computer. The computer's then a point of reference for your chimp and your human. So the way the process works is your chimp gets first bite of the cherry. So in any situation, chimp gets first bite of the cherry because if there's a danger, he needs to react. He'll look into the computer and go, has this happened before? If it has, was it a danger? If the answer's yes, boom, he's going to react. If the answer's no, he'll chill out, let the human part of the brain step in, and then the human part of the brain goes through the same process. So again, really relevant where PTSD is involved, because you've got evidence in your computer that this has been a danger before. So if we go back to Georgia, outside the cave, what was happening?
Chimp was taken over.
Yeah. Chimp had looked into the computer, gone, has there been a past experience when this has been a danger? Yes, there has. Get out of here, run, get away, you're in danger. Now, if Georgia had just tried to ignore her chimp, what would have happened?
Panic.
Your chimp's going to shout even louder because your chimp thinks that you're in danger. So if you don't listen to him, he's going to go, no, no. He's going to get louder and louder and louder. So what happened that night with Georgia, after we explained this to her, was she was then able to manage her chimp and kind of go, okay, thanks for making me aware. Thanks for making me aware of the potential danger. Straight away, her chimp calms down because he knows she's heard him. I'll go and check this out. Right, actually, it's okay. We're in the Peak District. We're with Climbing Out, and they've told me that that bag has been left by another member of a different group. There's no danger. But thanks. Great job for trying to keep me safe. As soon as her chimp felt that he'd been listened to and heard and that everything was safe, he could go chill out and eat a banana. But if she'd ignored him, he was going to keep shouting. Understanding this changed Georgia's life because she thought she was having a breakdown. She thought she wasn't coping after the bombing and that she was starting to lose the plot. What she realised then was that no, she was just behaving normally. Her brain was reacting in a normal way for what had happened to her. What she had to work out was how to manage her chimp so that he didn't hijack life and stop her from moving forwards and getting on with life. But once she understood the process, she was able to do that. So, you know, when we were saying about the fear of failure stops you from trying in the first place, like that is your chimp protecting you from failure. But then that becomes a belief, you know, I can't do it. And it then hijacks everything. I can't do it because I might fail. That's the what ifs, you know. So what if, when I was on the squad, this was a big part. And one of the huge things was when you were racing, what if I get beaten? Like, that's a threat to your status and ego. What if I capsize at the start? What if I get my race plan wrong? Like, that's where your what ifs hijack everything. What we were taught to do was to have the conversation with our chimp while we were in human mode. So like before you got anywhere near to racing, the morning of racing, it'd be right, okay, what are you concerned about, chimp? Well, what if you capsize? Well, I haven't capsized for 7 months. So like really unlikely that I'm going to, but if I do, we'll just have to deal with it. But you know, actually, we haven't capsized for 7 months. You know, what if you get beaten? Well, if I get beaten, I'm going to, like, it's, you know what I mean? It's about having that conversation with your chimp. But that's a bit of managing, which we'll go on to in a minute. Because, you know, when we say, I've said it a couple of times, trauma does define you. You know, how it defines you is up to you, but it does define you. That's because it will always be in your computer. You can't make it go away. So there is always going to be, when you have that check-in, that past experience of when it has been a threat. So again, it's all about learning to manage your chimp. So chimp, all about survival. Job is to keep you safe and to keep you alive. As a result of that, he can become paranoid, irrational, emotional, and jump to conclusions. Yep. So all of those what ifs, when you know, people are saying the lack of motivation, don't know what direction to go in, like don't know what's the first step to take, and it's like, but what if this happens? What if that happens? That is all Chimp. He's trying to protect you. Because the what if you fail, what if you make a fool of yourself, what if this doesn't work, that doesn't work, is all trying to keep you safe. But that's where he can really hold you back. The important thing to say is your chimp is neither good nor bad. He's just doing his job. So there does become this like perception that your chimp's bad and evil because he hijacks all of this stuff and causes so many problems. He's not. He's just doing his job. But the downside of him doing an amazing job of keeping you safe is that it causes these things that aren't so helpful. So the key is learning to manage him. I love the smoke alarm analogy because I think that's exactly like it is. You know, the smoke alarm is there to keep you safe, but it can also go off when you burn the toast. That's what your chimp does. He's trying to keep you safe, but in trying to keep you safe, he can trigger a false alarm. Yeah? Human, logical, rational thinking. Assesses the evidence to come to a logical decision. Computer stores all your past experiences, learnt behaviours, and becomes a point of reference for your chimp and your human. Really, really relevant when you've been through trauma. So whatever has happened, it all gets stored in the computer. Chimp looks in, yes, past experience of danger, boom, I'm reacting. And don't forget, the real key to it as well is this bit, that your chimp is 5 times faster than your human, bigger and stronger. Got to be, to keep you safe and keep you alive. The downside of that is he can hijack. When really you need to be having a rational conversation, or you need to be thinking rationally before your brain has had time to get into human mode, your chimp's in there, looking in the computer. So there's a thing where your computer is 20 times faster. What that means is your chimp looks in and it's like an instant reaction from the computer. Yes, danger, go! That's so fast that your human part of your brain hasn't had time to take control. So it comes back to learning to manage this bit, so we give time for our human brain to step in. Thing that's really important with that is never worry that if you are in danger, you would override your chimp and stop him from keeping you safe, because he's so big and strong that if there's real, genuine danger there, that's always going to overpower everything. I'll tell you a little story. So it was when I was training for the Atlantic, and we were doing a row from Ireland to Wales, but they were so a bit like in boats what we're in today, but you rowed instead of paddled. You had a crew of 4 rowing and 1 coxing, and we had a support boat with a second crew on it as well. So one crew would row for 2 hours, and then there would be a rib, which is like an inflatable dinghy with a motor. The rib would bring the next crew of 5 out to the rowing boat. The crew that were rowing would step into the rib. The crew that were about to row would step into the rowing boat, and then the rib would bring it back to the support boat. And it went on like that for kind of 24 hours. First time, but seas were really big. It was really rough conditions. Seas were really big. First time I went to transfer from the support boat to the rib, so I can't push off my gammy leg because it doesn't move, so I can't like jump off it. So that was the support boat that I was on. That was the rib beside it. Just as I went to step into the rib, big wave hit and it pushed the boats apart, and I stepped straight into the sea. Now, danger in those conditions were that in seconds you could be washed away. I can remember reaching up and grabbing hold of, like there's a line that goes around the edge of the rib, grabbing hold of it and finding an insane strength from somewhere and pulling myself into the rib. Now, normally I wouldn't be strong enough to do that. That was my chimp. Like your adrenaline, that reaction, keeping you safe. So in that instance, my chimp was really bloody useful to me because he kept me safe. Trouble was, what happened next time I went to transfer from the support boat into the rib?
Chimp was telling you, or the computer was telling you you'd done it before.
Yeah. So we're there, Chimp's going, hang on a minute, let me check this out. Oh shit, this was a danger. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. So I'm stood there, like, wanting to transfer, and I'm like, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. Like, total meltdown. And that was this, but it was then holding me back. So where it had kept me safe initially, it was now holding me back because it was stopping me from being able to do it. The other guys in the crew, I had one like on the rib holding the hand out to help me. I had one behind me. So I did it, and I did it okay. That put some more evidence in my computer. Oh, okay, you can transfer and it's all right. However, when you've had a negative experience, it takes a lot more positive experiences to override it. So even though I'd had that positive experience, next time, same thing happened. Next time, same things happened. Next time, same things happened. So my Chimp's still going, hang on, hang on, hang on. There's danger here, don't do it. Every time I went to transfer, I had that same kind of like, even though the guys were there to help me and support me. So this is when it becomes really kind of hard, especially when you've had a trauma, an accident, whatever it might be. And it's good to know that this sounds negative, but the traumatic experience is way more powerful than a positive experience. So you've got to keep doing it a lot of times before it will become the default, that actually your Chimp can look in there and go, okay, we've had one experience where it was bad, we've now had 350 experiences where it was good, so actually I'm going to chill out now. Good to know that, you know, so that you don't expect it to happen instantly. All happy with that? Make sense?
Yeah.
Mean something?
Absolutely.
It's pretty revolutionary, isn't it?
Very interesting.
Yeah. So, key, managing our mate here. Number of ways to do it. This differs slightly from Steve Peters, but again, what I love is that we'll kind of take these models and take these principles and tweak and adapt to sort of make them fit. This was actually someone, Faye, it was you that came up with a little acronym the other day, wasn't it? This I nicked from another participant. So we were going through how to manage your Chimp, and he went, oh, if you swap them round, it spells apes. Great way to remember it. So first one, and we've kind of talked about this today already, is acknowledge your Chimp. So we'll go back to Georgia at the cave. As we said before, if Georgia tried to ignore her Chimp, what's he going to do? Shout louder. He's going to keep on shouting until she hears him. By her going, I hear you, Chimp. Thank you for making me aware. Let me check this out. Acknowledging her Chimp can then go, thank God, she's heard me. She's listened to me. She's gonna check it out. Phew. And he'll calm down. So personally, I think that's massive. You know, especially when we've been through trauma, is acknowledging why your Chimp is getting upset. Second one is pause. So your Chimp is 5 times faster than your human. If you can just press the pause button, that gives you time to let your human brain step in. Now, that pause can be a number of things. It can be visualizing a pause button like you've got on your remote control. It can be taking a deep breath. It can be walking out the room. It can be going and doing something else and coming back to it. When I speak to, oh God, I hope my mother doesn't watch this. When I speak to my mother, love you, Mum. she pushes my buttons like no one else in the world does, right? So, oh my God, do I have to use this? Because I can go into chimp mode in seconds. So I've learned now, sometimes, again, please, I hope you're not watching this, Mum. Sometimes Mum will, and I'll just put the phone down. I'll leave it on, I don't mean put it down on her. I mean, I'll put it on speaker, put it down, and I'll literally, it'll still be going, and I'll go back to it. That's pressing the pause button. That's giving you time to get back into human thinking. Really important. Especially if you're talking to your boss. Because, you know, you can lose jobs over this otherwise, which is quite handy. But again, number of ways for you to use that pause button. But what that's doing is just giving the human part of your brain time to step in. Third part, or third thing, exercise your chimp. That can be a number of things. You know, when you're really bloody angry and you either go and train, or you dig a hole in the garden, or you play some music really loud, that is all exercising your chimp. It doesn't always have to be about physical exercise. You know, it might be, you might go, I'm going for a run, and like that, letting off steam, that's exercising your chimp. What I love, where you can combine these two as well. So I do this quite a lot. Who has had that email through that really winds them up? Send, right? So you send a chimp response. That instantly puts them at the other end into chimp. And before you know it, you're in this to in and fro in and possibly lost your job or whatever it might be. What I've learned to do is bang that email out. That's exercising your chimp. Just doing that in itself is exercising your chimp. Then I'll go away and do something else. It might be I'll sleep on it. It might be I'll go and make a cup of tea. I'll go walk the dogs. I'll go and dig a hole in the garden. Then I'll come back to it. I'll reread it. I generally say the same thing, but in a much better way. Then I press send. That's pressing the pause button. So you're kind of combining these two things, but understanding, because you know, it's like you get the email through and you're, I want this person to know that this is just not acceptable, you know. And I've learned now that as much as I want to send that email, just step away, come back. If you read it again and you still want to send it as it is, then press send. But just get yourself back into human thinking before you hit the send button. Really useful. Final one, and this isn't in Steve Peters' book, is support. But I think it's really important to have a relationship with your chimp, because this is what it's all about, is working together, not fighting, not like trying to appease them, just working with your chimp. So what do you need to feel okay? So I'll go back to Georgia. Another problem Georgia had was she didn't ever want to leave the house because what if it happens again? I don't feel safe. What if? The what ifs are always your chimp. What if it happens again? So by supporting her chimp, we kind of worked out, okay, let's have a conversation with your chimp. What do you need to feel safe? So she worked out that if she was going to go out with her friends, wherever she went, she needed to know where the exits were. So that was the first thing, need to know where the exits were. Second thing was, we need to make sure we've all got each other's phone numbers in our phones so that if we get separated, we can contact each other. Let's arrange a meeting point so that if we get separated, we know where we're going to get back together. So she put these steps in place. There was a number of other things. What she also did was she then put them onto a little cue card, which she laminated, and she had cue cards in every pocket, every bag, like, so they were constantly there for her to just put her hand in and get it out. Because the thing is, once you get into chimp thinking, you're not thinking rationally. So if she went out and she started panicking, it was too late to start, right, what do I need to do? Because she's in irrational thinking. So when she got hijacked by her chimp, she would just reach out for a cue card. Right, first of all, I need to know where the exits are. Second, and she would work through the cue card. So she would support her chimp so that a chimp knew, well, a chimp felt safe more than anything. If your chimp's not feeling threatened, he's not going to react. Another thing she did, so well, no, actually, it wasn't Georgia. This was, sorry, brain fart there. Another young girl I worked with, and she was crippled with anxiety. And what she realised was that her anxiety was actually her chimp hijacking things. So we were like, okay, how can you support your chimp to help you manage your anxiety? So she did a number of things. First of all, she gave her chimp a name. So she called him Larry. And she said, can I write him a letter? So she wrote Larry a letter. She then said, can I set up a text account for him so I can text Larry? It's like, yeah, that's cool. So she would actually turn Larry into a bit of a third person, which helped her work with him and manage and find a solution to the anxiety. I asked her a little while afterwards, like, how was things with Larry? How's it going? She said, oh, it's great. And I said, how's the texting going? She said, brilliant. She said, but the bastard never texts us back. I thought it was quite funny. But then there was a number of other things that she did to support her chimp. So she wanted, when she did get hijacked by her anxiety, she created a trigger with a song. So what we said was, right, go to a happy place. So for her, there was a hill that she liked to sit on that looked out over a lake. So she went to that happy place and she'd put a tune on her headphones. Now, this doesn't happen instantly. You have to keep doing it. And I said, only play that tune in that happy place where you're relaxed, you're calm, you're safe. Create a trigger between that relaxed, calm, happy, safe place and state and that tune. So if you're out and about and you start to feel hijacked with the anxiety, you can put the headphones on, play that tune and create that trigger with a safe place. But we also recognised you can't always put your headphones on. So what she also did was create a trigger to a smell. So she'd go to a happy place, she'd put the tune on, and what she did, she got a little cuddly toy key ring, unpicked it, took the stuffing out, filled it with lavender. So when she was sat in that place, she'd sit in a safe place, have her headphones on and smell the lavender. So that was then, if she couldn't put her headphones on, she could hopefully get her keys out and smell the lavender. But we also appreciated that sometimes you can't sit there smelling a cuddly toy. So she also, while she was doing that, created a trigger with this. So she would sit in a happy place, put her tune on, have her lavender, and she would just be doing this. And the beauty with that is, it takes time. This takes time to create the trigger, but she knew she could have her hands behind her back, in her pocket. If she was getting anxious and she couldn't put headphones on, she couldn't smell her keys, she could just create the link with that in a safe space. That was all helping to calm her chimp down. One more thing, and it's just about conversations, right? If you're in chimp mode and someone else is in chimp mode, is it going to end well?
No.
Big no. Because you're both irrational, you're both emotional, you're both paranoid. Not good. How many times do we get into chimp to chimp conversations? You know, when one of us is chimpy, we react in a chimp way, which threatens someone else's chimp, so they react and boom, cat fight happens. What about chimp to human?
Depends on the human, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say sometimes. Ideally, no, because one person's irrational and emotional, one person is rational and not emotional. However, where it can really help is spotting it in someone else and going, let's just leave this for now and come back to it. That's pressing the pause button, but it's you pressing their pause button. This really helped me out once. So I was driving home and I was on a dual carriageway that was then going into a single lane. And there was a lorry on my inside and I was slightly up on the lorry. So I assumed he was going to brake and let me in. He didn't. So I accept I could have braked, but I didn't. I just put my foot down and cut him up instead. And we then got to the traffic lights and the traffic lights were on red. And I looked in my rearview mirror and I saw him getting out of his cab on his lorry. And I was a bit like, oh shit. So I pushed the button down on my car. Anyway, he comes up to my window. I'm going to swear now, so you might need to press pause. And he's, wind your window down. And he's steaming, right? Why? So I thought, I stayed in human brain here now. And I'm like, if I don't wind my window down, it's going to upset him more. So I wound my window down. Driving like that, you're a f***ing idiot, I'm going to have you. Now, what I wanted to say to him was, ooh, you're getting chimpy. But in being able to stay here, I went, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to cut you up. I do apologise. I will try very hard not to do it again. And he literally went, okay, and went and got back in his cabin. You know, that was me understanding that he was in chimp mode. So I was able to take control of the situation because I'd stayed here. So it can really help you. Relationships, oh my God, how much can it help you in relationships? If you can spot that your partner is getting into chimp mode, and instead of letting them push your buttons and you get into chimp mode and boom, off you go, you can sort of go, do you know what? I'm just going to go and walk the dog. Let's chat when I get back in. That gives them enough time to calm down and get into human thinking. Dump them. Yeah. Sorry. But, okay, great, awesome. So, you know what I mean? But like, it's a really good point in that if they're always in chimp mode, they've got to take responsibility for their own chimp. You can't take responsibility for their chimp. So now if they don't understand this, and this is where I say sharing these videos with you when they're done, and sharing them with partners can be really useful. You know, because if they don't understand it and you go, oh, you're getting chimpy, they're probably going to look at you and go, what are you talking about? You know, but it can help you understand each other and manage each other. Equally, if they're not prepared to get out of here, get out. Well, I know that's harsh, but where's the best? So that's a bit of a sometimes. Best place to be? Yeah. So, you know, when you are, even if you notice it in yourself, like I've really learned to identify when I'm getting chimpy and just go, I'm going to speak to you tomorrow. Or even just noticing, instead of where I want to fly off the handle, just making me question whether that's what I really want to do or whether that's my emotional response because I'm getting into chimp mode. So this is just a really useful tool to help you manage yourself, but manage other people as well. There's a lot of blank faces. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Makes total sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. And you'll start spotting it. You'll start spotting it in yourself. You'll start spotting it in other people. The one thing I would say is it doesn't stop you being hijacked by your chimp. What I think it does do is you might still react, but when you've calmed down, you might go, oh God, I let my chimp control that situation. I've learned to apologise now a lot better because I recognise actually I acted inappropriately because I was in chimp mode. So I've got much better when I'm back in human mode to go back and apologise to people. And when you apologise, generally they might be really pissed off with you for what you've said or how you've reacted. But if you can go, I'm really sorry, like, I acknowledge I shouldn't have reacted like that, you know, they'll generally calm down and come back into human mode as well. Sometimes it feels like if I do not sort this out now, the world is going to end. You know, that's your chimp hijacking, but your chimp is so strong, you know, and it's such a drive. Like, you think of that drive of the chimpanzees in the jungle, I must sort this now, otherwise, like, the herd is going to be up. But, you know, it's the most important thing in the world to sort this out now. I can't possibly leave it. And, like, that feeling can be so... Do you get that as well? Or not so much?
I have, yeah.
Sorry, you included, Jonathan. Yeah? Okay. So maybe it is just more a chimp thing than a female thing. I'll put it down to menopause again. And when you're in that overwhelming feeling, it is so hard to step back from it, even if you know you should. Really, really hard. Really hard. And sometimes we can and sometimes we can't do it. But that feeling is horrible, isn't it? Horrible. When you feel like, I have got to sort this. The problem is, especially if you're in a conversation with someone like that, it's never going to end well, because it just escalates and escalates and escalates. So the only thing you can do to have the chance of resolving it is come back to it in the morning. But it is so, because we're thinking irrationally, because we're in chimp mode. So we can't think rationally and go, I need to just leave this and talk about it tomorrow. So it's hard. It's really hard. It's just really useful little tools and tips for managing conversations to keep the control. Instead of, because when you're here, you're out of control. Chimp's hijacking things and you're not in control because you're being irrational. So this is all, everything we do is about putting the control in your hands, like we said on Monday. So it's all little things to keep the control. So the chimp paradox is a really powerful table leg. And being aware of your chimp is so important. So thinking about your chimp, what personality does your chimp have? How does that personality help you? How does it hold you back? So thinking about your chimp and the type of chimp he is, what do you think would be the best ways to help manage or support your chimp?